Welcome, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. So today's video is going to be the part 2 of our Dollar Tree Nautical series. Now I was going to do 3 parts. I decided to just put all of these into one last part of this series. So we're going to do 10 nautical Dollar Tree DIYs today, and I hope that y'all enjoy. All right, so for this first one, I'm going to be using some of the tumbling tower blocks, a cork sheet from the Dollar Tree, and also a canvas, one of the flat canvases, also from the Dollar Tree. I've got my Starbond glue. Now, I've been using this glue for a while. This is like the multi-purpose adhesive. This is the thin. They have all kinds of different types of glue, but I have a link in the description box for this glue. Y'all go check it out. It is good glue. Now, I'm going to peel the back off of that cork sheet and just place that right in the middle of my canvas. Directly in the center. I just smoothed it out real good. I then took some painter's tape, taped off a horizontal line. I've got some blue and black chalk paint that I'm going to mix together. Now that's the Waverly Ocean and then just black chalkboard paint. I mixed it together, made a like navy color, and then we're just going to paint that right onto the cork. And I wasn't sure how the cork was going to take the paint, but y'all, it worked out great. Painted up very, very nicely. I then taped myself off some vertical lines with some washi tape and painted that with my white chalk paint. Peel that tape off and check it out. Cute little design on there. All right, now for the tumbling tower blocks, I'm going to take my glue, and I started out, I was going to put it on the block, and then I was like, okay, that will take forever, so why don't I just actually put it on the canvas? Much better idea. So I just started putting myself a little bit on there. I'm going to put 3 side by side vertically, and then I'm going to swap it around and put 3 horizontally and do that same pattern all the way around the canvas. This was super simple. Now, on that piece right here that I'm fixing to put on, I actually added glue to the inside edge of the tumbling tower block so it would like glue to the other one, the one beside it, and hold that on there a little better. But this was super simple. This makes such a cute tray. That's what we're making, and I love it, y'all. It turned out really, really good. I'm so shocked at what you can do with the tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree. But this is a start to finish Dollar Tree DIY, and it is so beautiful when I'm done. I mean, y'all, this was so, so easy to do. You've got to try this because it was just so simple. Now, I did have to take my miter shears and cut up some of the blocks, the tumbling tower blocks, in order to make them fit like in the corners, but you can't tell it at all. See, you're looking at it right now and you really cannot tell it. But once we dry brush it, then you won't see it at all. But I just took some white Waverly chalk paint, put it on a chip brush, wiped it off on a baby wipe, and then I'm just going to lightly paint over the top of those blocks. And y'all, if you've ever worked with the tumbling tower blocks, you know that they dry brush well. You can stain them. I mean, you can paint them, but they really take paint really, really well. But the dry brushing is just, it's gorgeous. It's a very pretty like hue to it afterwards. It's just super pretty. So I just dry brushed that all the way around, got it like I wanted it. I just kind of kept playing with it until I got it to where I wanted it. I then flipped it over. I'm going to take some square beads that I had, wooden beads, and I'm going to place one in each corner, and that's just going to help our tray sit up some. I then took some hemp rope that I had, tied a knot, pulled it out a little ways, tied another knot, snipped that off, and made myself some handles. I just glued those on with some hot glue. I had a little anchor that I had picked up at the Walmart for like 97 cents. I stained it with some burnt umber, glued that dude on there, and this is done. So stinking pretty. right, DIY number 2. I'm so excited about this one because it's so easy. All right, now I have got 2 of the Hexagon frames from the Dollar Tree, also a set of the long bamboo skewers. I took the back, the glass, everything out of one of the frames. The other one I left just as it was. Now, there's a little ledge there because of taking the glass and the back and everything off. So I just took that skewer, stuck it down in that little ledge, in the point, just like so, and then kind of measured it, eyeballed it. I held the other one up to it so I could see how long to cut my skewers, and then I cut the skewers just as tall as I wanted this to be. So I'm just going to take some glue and add them to the end of those skewers and then just stick them down in each of the points on this frame. Y'all, this is so super simple. You have to try this one. Of all the DIYs, definitely have to try this one because this doesn't have to be nautical. You can do this any style. Just get creative. All right, now I added my skewers to each point. I took the other frame that we're going to use as the bottom, and I just took the stand and the hanger and everything off of it, but, you know, left the glass in. I add hot glue to each corner, flip the other one over, and add those skewers to my hot glue. Just kind of play around with it until you get each one of them where you want it. Let that sit, dry for a minute, and make sure it's good and sturdy. Flip it over, and then you're going to add some hot glue into the corners of that first one. I've got some white spray paint that I picked up at the Dollar General. I spray painted this whole thing, added some greenery and a candle. I've then got some cotton nautical rope that I got off of Amazon and some twine from the Dollar Tree. I just cut me off a piece of that nautical rope long enough that I can make a handle out of it. Hopefully you can see here we're making a lantern, guys, and I'm telling you, this was so super simple. All right, I added a little hot glue to that nautical rope, squeeze it together on the edges, and then add some of that twine. We're then going to wrap the twine around the end of it, just literally wrapping up those places that we just glued together. So stinking cute. Oh my gosh, this is so stinking cute. Do y'all see how simple this was? I mean, there's nothing to it. So stinking simple. Snip that off. You're going to glue that into place. And that is all I did to this one. Prop your handle up and you have got a cute lantern. All right, moving right along, DIY number 3. So for this one, I've got one of these candy dishes from the Dollar Tree, and then I've got some of this driftwood that I picked up at the Dollar General store. I actually had 3 bags of it. I had one of them already open, but I did use 3 bags. I've got my crystal color chalk paint from Waverly, and I'm just going to completely paint this candy dish. Just completely paint it, top to bottom. I believe I gave it 2 really good coats. I'm then going to take my driftwood, kind of play with it. I measured it out. Some of the pieces I ended up having to break because they were a little long. But y'all, I just simply glued these to this candy dish. So super simple. It does not get any easier than this one. And I'm telling you, this is such a statement piece. And it was so simple and so cheap. But like I said, I just took the bigger pieces, broke those in half, glued them. Now, I did try to keep my spacing pretty good. So, like, if I put one on one side, I would flip it around, put the same amount on the other side. But I just continued this process all the way around this candy dish. I used the bigger pieces first and then went in with the smaller pieces and kind of filled in the holes. Y'all, this thing is absolutely gorgeous. and I'm just in love with it. It's so simple. Like I said, just put on all my bigger pieces. I then took the smaller pieces and filled in any little spots, any little cracks that you could see. So stinking easy, y'all. This is so dadgum cute. And it's such a pretty blue color. I mean, I'm totally digging the driftwood. Love it. Filled that in. Very easy. Now, once I got all of my driftwood pieces on the candy dish, I added a LED candle, and then I took some lamb's ear, snipped it off, and just added those pieces in all the way around the candle. And y'all, this is absolutely stunning. I mean, it's gorgeous. It was so simple, and it cost me $3. DIY number 4. Okay, so for this one, I have got 3 of these little frames, pictures from the Dollar Tree. I have also got 3 of these little like seashell pictures that I picked up at Dollar General last year. They were out of season, so I think I gave $1/4 a piece for them, literally. But I started by just taking the hanger off the back of them and also removing the staples. Now, I took my picture frames from the Dollar Tree and just popped out the little insert that was in the middle, and then took a spatula and popped out the little wooden piece. I took my seashell pictures, added hot glue to the back of those, and just popped those right into the frames. Y'all, they fit perfectly in there. I mean, it was literally as if they were made for this project, because they literally just fit perfect. Popped them down in there. Now, I've got my plaster chalk paint by Waverly, and I'm going to paint every single one of these from top to bottom, completely painted with the plaster. I want them one solid color. Just the frame, the seashell, all of it. I want it all to be one solid color. Wanted to make these a little more modern and a little more, I don't know, neutral. That way you could use them in any color decor. It doesn't have to be, you know, with the blues and the whatever. I then took some antique wax by Waverly, a small brush, and I just began to add that antique wax to the edges of the seashells. I end up adding a little to the frame also, just a little here and there. But y'all, these turn out so stinking pretty, and they were so simple to do. I wanted this entire video to be full of DIYs that took less than 30 minutes to make, and just simple, everyday nautical decor that can be used in pretty much any color scheme. It's all neutral. But as you can see there, I just took that antique wax. I would add it and then go back with a baby wipe and wipe some of it off. But I literally just darkened up the edges of those seashells. I then went through and added a little to the frames, and that was it. These are completely transformed. I love them. DIY number 5. All right, for this one, I have got some of this crazy looking floral stems from the Dollar Tree. I have then got 4 of these canvas prints from the Dollar Tree, also some reindeer moss, and then this anchor that I picked up at Walmart for like $1.40, I think. Now, I started by taking those canvases from the Dollar Tree and just removing the actual canvas from the frame. I just wanted the little square frames. So I went through and cut it with my box cutter. I then pulled it all off. I had to use my little needle nose pliers to like get some of the staples out, but I didn't worry about it because it was going to be on the back. I then took those frames and began to staple them together. So we're making like a window sill. So I just stapled 2 of the frames together right down the middle with my stapler. And like I said, I didn't worry about taking the staples out because all this is going to be on the back. I then took those 2 sets of frames and stapled those together to make one big window sill. Now, I flip it over, and as you can see there, it's got like a little crack down the middle where the 2 sets of frames meet. So I just took my hot glue and added it and then simply let it sit and do its thing so that it would not squish out, nothing like that. I then take my plaster chalk paint once again, and I'm just going to dry brush this set of frames. Dry brushes really well. Now this is like MDF or whatever. It's not solid wood frame. It's just compressed board, you know, or whatever. But you can't really tell it after you get the dry brushing on there because it just kind of covers all that up. But it does dry brush really, really well. I dry brushed over the top. I went down the inside edge, just all over. I completely dry brushed these all over. I started out light and then darkened it up as I went. I realized that I liked it better with a lot of paint on there. So I did continue to just kind of add the paint as I went, just darken it up. But like I said, I got inside the edges. I got all the way around it, the corners, the center, just the entire thing. I'm then going to take that anchor and paint it with the mixture of black and blue chalk paint that I mixed up in a previous, in a DIY earlier in this video. It's just that navy color, and I just completely paint that anchor with it. I then go back with some sandpaper and sand it down, and y'all, it makes such a big difference just to sand it down. I mean, it just really brings this anchor to life. Just that simple act of sanding it down, man, it just seriously brought that anchor to life. Now, I'm going to take some hemp rope that I get off of Amazon. I'll keep a link in the description box for it, and add that to my anchor. That's just as a little decorative piece. I kind of wrapped it around the anchor, just wrap it however you want, be creative, but I just wrapped it a couple times, then snipped off the excess and secured that on the back of the anchor. Very simple. I'm then going to take some of that reindeer moss, and this is what I thought really, really took this DIY up a notch. I added some hot glue around this frame, just different spots on the frame. Then added the reindeer moss, so it would look like, maybe this window frame is from an old boat and it's been sitting on the bottom of the ocean and now it's got moss all over it. I don't know, but that was just kind of the idea behind this. And I think it really, really stepped it up a notch. So I then took my scissors and kind of trimmed at it just to trim it up and make sure that it looked nice. Didn't want any falling off or, getting scraggly and hanging and whatever. So I did trim it up just a little bit. I'm then going to take those pieces of whatever this is, y'all. Now, this was in like the fall florals. So it's, that color of like fall, but I thought it looked like coral or something. That's what it reminded me of. That's why I decided to use it for this particular DIY. But I just snipped off the ends, and then I'm just going to kind of place it over in the corner of this frame where I can put my anchor over the top of it. I just added some hot glue and began to glue these pieces down. Y'all, this was so super simple, and this is very pretty. It's definitely, once again, a statement piece. I mean, this will have people asking you like, where did you get that? For sure, because it is definitely unique. It is completely different than anything I've seen. And it's just fun, it's just something that you could be creative with and really make it your own style. But I just glued those pieces down. I then added some glue on top of them and glued down my anchor, and that was it. This is so stinking cool, y'all. DIY number 6. Okay, so for this one, I've got 2 of the 8x10 canvases from the Dollar Tree. I've also got some shells. These all came from the Dollar Tree. I just put them in this Ziploc bag, but they are all from the Dollar Tree. And then I've got some twine. Now, I started by taking out all of the staples from the canvases. Now, I don't typically do that, but that you were going to be able to see the entire, like all sides of the canvas. So I did remove all the staples. I then take some of the long skewers and I cut them down to where I can put one on each side of these staples if I have them, you know, propped up like this. Prop them up. I'm going to glue them right down the center. I added one of those skewers right to the middle of that, and that is just to hold this up. I want this frame to be able to stand on its own. So we're just gluing it together. I then flip it over. I added some hot glue down the center of that where we glued it before, and then I took those skewers that I had cut before and added a little hot glue and just glued those to the sides. Now, this is just to kind of keep it spaced out and also to keep the frame kind of held together. I'm then going to take my plaster chalk paint and paint this top to bottom. Now, I'm not sure exactly what you call this, but I kind of saw something similar to this on Pinterest, and I was like, you know what? I think that I can pretty well recreate that with Dollar Tree products. So that's what we're doing. So y'all just stick with me here. This turns out to be a really cool, very unique piece. I'm then going to take some twine and begin to make myself just some hanging, you know, like pieces of the twine. I believe this is called a lark's head knot. I'm not totally sure on that, but it is like a macrame knot. But all you do is loop your twine, then pull one end through the loop, and then pull it tight. So it's super simple to do, but I placed 5 sets of this onto the frame, glued them all into place. I took my hot glue and just kind of glued them into place so it would stay. Snipped them off with my scissors. I cut each one kind of going at different lengths. Just kind of wanted it all to be a little different. I'm then going to take my shells. Now, I took these shells and I went through and I washed them. The ones from the Dollar Tree usually they're pretty dirty, they're kind of gunky, they're dusty, you know, whatever. So I did wash them and scrub them, and y'all, it makes such a difference in the shell. But I just took those shells and I began to glue those onto the pieces of twine that we've got hanging. So I would glue one side and then take another shell that was the same exact size and glue it to the other side. Y'all, this is so stinking cute and it's so unique. Like I said, I found this on Pinterest, something similar to this, and I thought, okay, that's so cool. We have to redo this with Dollar Tree products. So this might not be your style. You may not love this. That's totally fine. You can customize this any way you want to, but I just continued this process of adding the shells, and I would take like a big shell and do one big shell and then do one small shell, and then, you know, just kind of swapping it up. I swapped it up as far as like the colors of the shells, but super simple. I took my Diamond brand fingernail file and just roughed up the frame itself, just kind of sanded down some of the paint on the frame and aged it a little bit. And other than that, that was it. This is so super cool. Check it out. All right, DIY number 7 and one of my favorites. All right, so I've got 3 of these pictures from the Dollar Tree. I start by sanding down all the glitter that was on the front. I'm then going to take my white chalk paint by Waverly and totally paint these white. I wanted to start out with a, nice flat white paint just to start with. So I gave it 2 really good coats. I'm then going to be using my ocean, pool, crimson, and also maize. I take some painter's tape and just start taping off some different designs. We're going to be making some of like the nautical flags, and I love these, y'all. Oh my gosh, I love these so much. But I just used this painter's tape, and I really just got creative and just kind of played with it until I got the designs that I wanted. But I just literally taped it off with this. I do use some of the washi tape also, but it was super simple to do. I just literally made some different designs. Like on one of them, I actually made the little cross to make it look like the Red Cross, or just nautical looking flags. These are so stinking cool. Definitely you can be very creative with this. Customize it exactly the way you want it. You could put your initials. There's just so many different things that you could do with these, and they're already in the perfect shape to be a nautical flag. These were so simple to do. I took some white paint, went back and kind of, straightened up my lines and all, but that was it. These were so stinking simple, and they are too cool. All right, DIY number 8. So for this one, I've got one of these frames from the Dollar Tree. Also, more of those shells. Now, these are the solid white shells. I started out by taking my antique wax and painting my picture frame. Just completely painted the picture frame with the antique wax. I kind of went really dark with it. I actually wanted it to be a super dark stain on there, so I did paint it really good. I painted around the edges and all, and then just kind of wiped it off with a baby wipe or whatever. I'm going to take this piece of an old notebook, the insert from the frame, and just trace it out onto the old notebook piece. I'm going to cut that out with my scissors, and this is just so I've got a thicker piece to put in that little slot where the insert goes, like where the picture goes, just so I know that what I glue to that is going to hold up. So I just add that back to the frame. I then take my bigger shells, place 5 of them on the frame just like I want them. Now, I had already played around with this and kind of got the placement of my shells and whatnot ahead of time, but I just started to glue these down. Now, this is so stinking pretty. It is so super simple, and you could make multiples of this. You could really do this up. You can find these frames like this at the Dollar Tree all the time pretty much. They've always got the seashells also. So if you're into the nautical decor, this DIY right here is very customizable once again, and it's just super simple. So I then decided to take some of my colored shells and just begin to kind of play around with those, adding them to the existing shells that I already had on the frame. But y'all, I just kind of kept playing with it until I got like the shape of a flower, but it's all made out of shells, and it's just so pretty. I love this. This was so super easy. Very relaxing to make, and I love it. Check this out. moving right along. DIY number 9. All right, this one I have got some stickers from the Dollar Tree. I've also got 2 of these trays from the Dollar Tree. And then I've just got a crap ton of ribbon from all over. I've got my chalk paints in the color plaster and crystal. I'm going to paint one tray with the plaster and then paint the other tray with the crystal color. Now I gave these both 2 really good coats. I then take the 2 trays, add some hot glue around the edge of the one tray, and then glue it to the other one. So what we're making here is a stack of books, and I thought that using these trays in order to make the books was probably like the easiest thing ever. No worrying about having to paint books or do any of that. I then take those stickers. I took the other package of stickers and kind of used it as a guide so that I could keep my words good and straight. But I just spell out Seas, S-E-A-S. We're going to place that on the set of books. Now, I did use my tweezers so I could make sure that I had it perfectly straight. I'm just going to place that on my little set of faux books. And then remove the piece that we had it placed on. I'm then going to do the day. So we've got seize the day. How stinking cute is that? I actually saw this on Pinterest also, and I was like, oh yeah, we're making that. So seize the day. I dry brushed a little bit of white paint over the top of that just because those stickers were kind of shiny. I'm then going to take some of this blue jean material ribbon and also some burlap ribbon and glue the 2 of those pieces together just to make one strip that is, you know, together. I'm going to wrap it around my set of faux books, twist it at the bottom, and come back up over the books. Now, this way we are covering up on the edges where the little cutouts were. I believe there were stars, but you're going to cover that, tie a little knot or a bow or however you want to do it. But I just straightened out my ribbon. I actually went back and added a little bit of the Dollar Tree white ribbon, and that's it. Too stinking cute. All right, for our 10th and final DIY, I've got 2 cutting boards from the Dollar Tree. I have also got 2 of these jars with the little rope hanger on them from the Dollar Tree and 2 of these wooden looking hangers. I've just recently found those. Now, I'm taking my plaster chalk paint and I'm just going to dry brush these cutting boards. I just really put the paint to it and dry brush them really, really well. I thought the darker that I got with the paint, the better that they looked. So I really dry brushed them with a heavy hand. But I just thought they looked better with the extra paint. Super simple. This DIY right here is, you really can't get any easier than this. I also dry brushed the little hangers. Now, these are like the little command strip hangers, but they're just the Dollar Tree brand. But they were wood grain, y'all. I've not seen these before until now. I did cut off the little piece that, like, where you can pull it when you're ready to, take it off, because I didn't need that. I attempted to just stick it directly to the cutting board. Now, that was kind of stupid because, number one, my paint wasn't completely dry yet, but it was never going to really stick to begin with, but that's besides the point. Anyways, I did clean off my jar real good because I'd gotten a little paint on it, realized that it's definitely not going to stick on its own. So I decided to take some hot glue. I just add that. I took an old paintbrush and just kind of smeared it because I didn't want it to squish up whenever I placed it on the cutting board. I didn't want you to be able to see any of the glue. But I just placed that on there. I added some sand inside this little jar and a candle, and that's it. Too stinking cute. All right, y'all, that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It definitely helps my channel. Don't forget to go share this with your friends and family, and also subscribe. That would be awesome. You can see lots more DIYs just like this one here on my channel. There's a link in the description box for the channel, so go be sure and check that out. And also hit that notification bell so that you will know each time I upload a new video. Check me out over on Instagram and Facebook. Those are great places to connect. If you would like to support this channel, I would love for you to go to thecoffeeshop.com. There will be a link in the description box for that. Thank you so much for watching, and y'all have a blessed day.